think he's clearly going to try and now use this as to form himself into some sort of a martyr, to try and position himself as a martyr, and use this as someone who's been, politically attacked by his opponents, and that the justice system has been politicized. That's how he's going to use it. That's what he's going to do. Look, Reverend, this is a bomb on the American political landscape. Make no mistake about it. But I also think there is a sliver of Americans who are undecided here. I think the people who are supporters of Donald Trump will be supporters of Donald Trump, whether he gets convicted in all 4 of his indictments. And just let that swivel around your brain when you say it a little bit. Our presidential candidate has 4 indictments, 1 conviction, or the people who are against him. Certainly, this is not doing anything to change that. So I just don't know at the end of the day what effect this is really going to have on the election. There's a sliver, perhaps, of undecided Americans who may say, you know what, I can't have a convicted felon as our president.
He looks like a different person. That's the thing. When you're representing Donald Trump, he sucks the soul out of you. You see what Todd Blanche, who previously had a good reputation, became when he was the lead lawyer of Trump's criminal trial team. Take a look at Joe Tacopina when he was representing Donald Trump. And remember, over a year ago when the indictment was brought and Donald Trump, or right before the indictment was brought, and Donald Trump started posting these threats against Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, like the post Donald Trump did with the baseball bat looking like he was going to bludgeon the Manhattan District Attorney. And Donald Trump posted that to all of his violent followers. Remember, Joe Tacopina was asked about that. Just look at what look at even what he physically looks like. You can tell that he's suffering as a result of this representation of Donald Trump. Here, play this clip.
That includes the witnesses for the people who are talking just as much.
It also includes the former president swinging a baseball bat at the head of the Manhattan DA.
Well, I don't know where you got that, because if
that was a tweet sent out by the former president.
No, it wasn't. And first of all, that picture was not him swinging a baseball bat. I mean, if you want to distort the facts, go right ahead. I won't address that. Yes, it is. He wasn't swinging a baseball bat at anyone's head. That was a picture of him showing off an American-made bat. Someone else put a picture of the district attorney next to him, and in an article posted that. That's not his article. That's not his photos.
And the fact that he had to say that is just so utterly embarrassing. And I mean, he must have felt that this was just destroying his reputation at the time, because it absolutely was. And I had heard before that Tacopina was a good guy. I knew people who knew Tacopina. They're like, yeah, this is pretty surprising. But I think Tacopina falls into that category of people who think that they're going to be able to deal with Trump, and then they figure there's no way to deal with Donald Trump, this wannabe fascist baby. This was right after the E. Jean Carroll first verdict was handed down. Remember, Joe Tacopina did not represent E. Jean Carroll in the second trial. In Tacopina's case, that involved the sexual assault and defamation allegations, the more recent defamation allegations, and then the 1996 sexual assault. Donald Trump was hit with a $5 million verdict in that case. And that's this press conference I want to show you right now, where Tacopina was called an effing Neanderthal by people who were there during that press conference. But then after Tacopina left and Alina Habba was representing Trump, Trump was hit with, when you include post and pre-judgment interest, over $90 million just on the defamation itself. But this was Tacopina after he lost the E. Jean Carroll case. Play this clip.
They found him not liable for the rape.
You're a fucking Neanderthal.
What do you make of the fact that
And remember, there was the moment at that trial where Donald Trump fled the country, and then Donald Trump said that he was going to come back and testify in the E. Jean Carroll case, even though the defense had rested, even though Tacopina had rested. Donald Trump fled to Scotland and Ireland. He's like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to confront her. I'm going to testify. Remember when Trump said that? If you don't, let me play the clip.
Going back early because a woman made a claim that's totally false. It was fake. She's a fake. She wrote in a book. She's a Democrat. We have a rough judge. We have a judge that doesn't like me much, appointed by Bill Clinton. And he's a guy that doesn't like me much. He's, I guess, not allowing the coat that they wanted to put into evidence. Once we said, yes, put it into evidence, they said, oh, we don't want to do that. It's a disgrace but I have to do it. That's part of life.
Then, of course, Donald Trump didn't do that. So the well-respected federal judge, Judge Kaplan, who, by the way, treated Tacopina with respect because Tacopina had a good reputation. He said, hey, Mr. Tacopina, I hear your client says he's going to testify. Is he going to? Because even though you rested, I'll give him the opportunity. And Tacopina's like, no, I'm not. He's not testifying. He's left the country. Judge, you know what I have to deal with as well. And then Joe, I got to show this clip to the Midas Mighty. This is when Joe Tacopina would enter the courtroom. They would call him Tacky Tacopina. And look at the different way he was received versus when E. Jean Carroll walked into the courtroom. Play this clip.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Tacky Tacopina. What is on you? Shame on you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are so great. We know that you're millions and millions of women believe you. Millions of women.
And here was the moment, and this was before the Manhattan criminal trial started. This was a separate appearance that Tacopina did on Al Sharpton. They're friends. They're good friends. That's why he goes on the Al Sharpton show to give this news. But when he withdrew before the criminal trial ever started, here's the reason that he said he was leaving Trump's legal team. And then he swiftly withdrew, leaving Trump with the legal team of Alina Habba on the civil cases, then Todd Blanche, Susan Nicholas, who we've never heard say a peep. That should be pretty telling. And Emile Bove, who hasn't said a peep. But here's what Tacopina said on Al Sharpton. Play the clip.
Why would you leave the team?
By the way, it's the first and only interview, Reverend, that I'll be doing on this topic. Okay, you're someone obviously very special to me and someone I have a relationship with, and you know I'm going to discuss it once and only once to the degree I can. I left the team because it was just my time. I had to follow my compass, and my compass told me it was my time there was done. There are a lot of personal reasons that went into that, things that I can and won't discuss. I also have ASAP Rocky's trial coming up this year, which is going to take most of my year. The attention that's going to be put into that case, there's a lot riding on that for that young man, his wife, and his family.
So now Todd Blanche, the human mannequin who stands there next to Donald Trump, I've described Todd Blanche as he reminds me now of the Steve Carell character from he was playing the weatherman on Anchorman. You recall that? So let me show you right now what Todd Blanche had to say. Let's play the clip right now.
Why did Donald Trump not ultimately take the stand here?
Listen to this dumb answer.
Well, that's a very personal question to him and to me, honestly. And it's a very difficult question. Of course, he wanted to testify. And I don't say that because that's what he has said. He wanted to get his story out. I think the judge had made some decisions before the trial or the day of the trial started about what would be allowed to be asked of him by the prosecutors if he took the stand. And some of those questions were really complicated to answer because there's still appeals going on. And so there's a lot of decision points that go into whether somebody testifies. Ultimately, it's his decision, and he listened to us and he relied on our counsel, and he reached a decision that he thought was right, which I very much agreed with.
So that means your counsel was for him to not take the stand.
I'm not going to tell you what my counsel was.
Well, you said he relied on counsel and he went with that decision and he didn't take the stand.
But ultimately, it was his decision, and I never say, and I think colleagues and folks that you have on here hopefully agree with me. I never say to somebody, "Don't take the stand." Right? That's their decision, and that's a decision that they have to make. But I want them to have they want them to know what will happen on the good and the bad if they do take the stand.
So no regrets on him not taking the stand.
Look, the verdict came down a couple hours ago. I don't know if I have any regrets about anything yet. I'm still thinking things through, and I think so is he, and so is everybody else around him. But at this point, I don't think that there was a conviction because he did not take the stand.
And one more time, let me show you one more clip of Todd Blanche right here, just so you can see what Joe Tacopina avoided. Let's play this clip.
When he was leaving, one thing he brought up were the witnesses who were not called. And he was saying that there could have been witnesses that would have helped make the case. We never saw Keith Schiller, Alan Weisselberg, some key figures here who got brought up a lot. Why didn't the defense call any of these witnesses?
Well, because we happen to live in America. and we don't have the burden of proof. And so there's not that's not the point. That's a question that is a loaded question that should not be asked of a defense.
Right now. All right, let's come back. You know, I've seen some dumb lawyers in my life. You know, but I don't know. I thought this guy hired only the best people, but he has some dumb lawyers. I'm telling you. Anytime a lawyer is going to cost you almost $90-some million, well, that was Tacopino the first time, that was $5 million, and then it was $80-some plus million the second time with Alina Harbor. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about Alina Harbor or not.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. Let's see how she's still in business as a lawyer. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It makes no sense at all. See, number one, a reason why I brought this up because you have a lot of people out there that's going absolutely crazy about the reason of Trump being convicted. Now, let's be honest. If we have anyone on this panel, if we had 34 counts against us, okay, I don't think that we would be sitting here right now on a Sunday.
Mm-mm.
There are people in prison right now with just one, and whether you're a Trump fan or not, that's your business. I mean, I'm not talking to the panel, obviously, but I'm talking to the audience. That's your business. But let's go. What happened to the premise, Dr. Demery, that no one is above the law? Now, and to claim that this was a Biden prosecution, let's get the facts straight on this. Joe Biden didn't and couldn't have had any influence over that because that's a state trial. And keep in mind, charges had to be brought by a grand jury. The next point that I wanted to make, the defense and the prosecution have a chance, both of them select the jury that's going on the trial. Okay? The judge himself, I think he was more than fair to Trump. He violated the gag order 10 times. Now, Dr. Demery, Mike, Dr. Sims, if the judge give us a gag order and we're going to go out there and we're going to slam his daughter, we're going to slam him, we're going to slam everybody out there, do you think we wouldn't be behind bars?
Oh, we'd be under the jail.
We'd be under the jail. Now, fair is fair. Fair is fair. There are people right now. There's a man, I believe, was it Mississippi or Alabama, a black man that stole some hedge clippers some 26, 27 years ago, and he's still in jail for stealing a pair of hedge clippers. Hedge clippers. Okay? And he's been in jail for 25 years. What did they cost back then? About $10? Okay? No, and let's think about this. Fair is fair. So let's start with you, Dr. Sims. I want you to take on this. The people that are talking about, oh, it's unfair. America's going to hell in a handbasket. This isn't right. Look, he was convicted by a jury of his peers. And I know I'm being redundant. His lawyers had a chance to help pick the jury. He was indicted by a grand jury. And I think the judge leaned over backwards not to lock this guy up, which he could have. Okay, but he didn't want to show any bias at all. And the idea, again, I'm being redundant. I know this, that Biden had nothing to do with this. He couldn't have. He has no jurisdiction over New York State. Folks, you got to understand this. You really have to understand this. Okay. And I don't know what the Supreme Court is going to do about it because they're threatening to appeal this all the way up to the Supreme Court. I don't think the Supreme Court has any jurisdiction there either. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I wish Ann was on, but Dr. Sims, your take.
You know, this whole thing is causing a lot of people a lot of anxiety. And because of the way of the world and what things are going, I know that we talk about the laws for the lawless, but how unfair the law has been to many.
Mm-hmm.
How unfair it has been, as you
Continues
forestated.
to be.
If that was one of us, then we would have been put up under the jail. I'm not going to get in no bait. I'm sparing myself from anxiety because I'm in this persuasion that this is the year of expulsion. and everybody's going to be exposed. We could argue this until Jesus comes.
Mm.
But my thing is, I'm going to save myself the anxiety. I'm like Whoopi Goldberg on The Color Purple. I'm going to stand back and see what the colors on the wall going to look like.
Mm.
And I say that in all sincerity, because even though it causes duress and distress and people are up in arms, and you're going to have people that's going to be on the side, that's a given. And they are going to react the way they're going to react. That's a given. It is what it is. People are just going to do that, just like in our churches, in our homes, in our families. There's going to be split decisions. There's going to be people thinking other things. They're going to be one side's going to say, well, I believe this, and another one's going to say, I believe that. But the dirt's going to come out in the rinse water. Okay. And that's my take on it, because I am not going to. I'm of this persuasion. And I know we can debate this, we could talk about it until we're blue in the face. They don't care about nothing about your opinion, okay? Because they're not coming to your house to get it. And I'm of this persuasion that, yeah, we talk among each other. Maybe it makes us feel better to do so, but we can't change it. Only the vote will change it, of course. And I get that part of it, but I cannot change people's emotions on how they feel. I cannot change how they think. We can talk about it. We could try to sway them, but you cannot change it. Okay. Once it's concrete and formed in their minds, regardless of what proof is put before them. I'm of this persuasion. In this time that we're living, people going to think what they want to think and feel what they want to feel. Dr. Demery, know that we're in Revelation, honey. We're in the time that these things are going to happen, and there is not a doggone thing you can do about it. Yes, it's kind of disturbing. And I just did a lesson on anxiety. And if I would allow this whole thing to promote anxiety in me, guess what? It would. But I could talk about it. But let me tell you something. I'm not going to be high and low and angry and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to allude to, things are going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah, he showed his behind. Yes, he did. Okay. But that's Donald Trump. That ain't nothing new. That's Donald Trump. Okay. And who had to say what? We can say what we want to say. You're not there listening to people talk and the schemes and the lies that they project. You're not there, because sometimes we do that around in our own circle. I'm not talking about here, but even in our own domains. We do that. One person going over here saying something else and another one saying something else. And when you come together, none of it's true. And so guess what? I'm of this persuasion that, you know what? I'm going to stand back. I have my views, whether they're merited or not. I have my opinion. Yes, we have jerks all over the place. Okay, it is what it is. We have people who don't want to abide by the law. We have people who talk to people, other people like we got to kill. We have them around us. We can't walk away from it. The only way we can change a world is get better within ourselves, period, and make a difference. Yes, let's help each other to unify. Yeah, but this has caused a great divide in the United States. This has caused a great divide, and it's unnecessary divide. You know why? It's because the greed for power. That's what it is. They don't care nothing about you, William. Me,
I know.
Deacon, Pastor, Bishop Rudolph. I'm gonna just be real. Okay? They don't care. They don't even know your name. You're just a number. You're just a figure to them. So why am I gonna pass out, lose sleep over this? Why am I going to get high? You got people that are just going and just doing crazy stuff. It is ridiculous, crazy stuff, almost to the point of wanting to kill somebody because of the way they think or the way they feel. That's ridiculous. I got family members in my family divided. For what? For what? They don't care. They're not going to give you no dollar. Okay. They're not coming to your rescue. Okay. And it's all about a power struggle. You know the cliche say, let the chips fall where they may, they're going to fall where they may. It is what it is. Okay. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Yeah, Donald Trump couldn't keep his mouth shut when he was sanctioned to do so. That's his character. That is who he is. the laws for the laws, but guess what? There's a whole heck of a lot of them putting up in that White House done got away with stuff in secrecy. So how he who hath no sin, let him cast the first stone. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'm at. All of these charlatans up there talking yik yak like they walk in a spotless life. They are not. There's nobody cleaner than Jesus. I'm just being real. We're all
Well said,
striving.
Cece.
We all got to grow up. We all got to face reality. It is what it is. Because if truth be told, we'll be against each other. I'm just going to make this just a statement, William. Not saying that we are. We'll be against each other because of this hoopla. They don't care nothing about you, and they're not coming to pay your bills.
Mm.
Okay, they're
So,
not coming to put food in your refrigerator. They don't think. My thing right now is mental health, on how people, my own mental health. I heard something today. How can you be beneficial to a dying world when you're bound? I'm not going to be bound by this stuff that's supposed to happen. It's
mm-hmm.
going to happen, and that's just my take on it. And
No,
so
that's fine.
yeah, and my take is which way, whatever I vote, I gotta pray first. This is
Uh-huh.
just me, because both of them I don't trust. I'm just gonna be honest, okay? Because you don't know who's doing what for real, for real. I know we have reports that say we don't want to go through all that, William, but that's just me, okay? And that's just my feeling. Okay. And so I have to really and God answers my prayers, and I know he does. And so, and this is where I've been for many years in my voting, and I vote. I do vote. Okay. My thing is, don't come to me when you're not voting. That's my issue. You
Mm-hmm.
really have much to say to me when you don't put your, pen down there and you vote. Then we
Mm-hmm.
don't have nothing to really talk about, because you did not make an imprint on even whichever way you went.
Right.
Okay, and that's my take on it, William.
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything you said. And I know that's a shocker to you. I don't disagree with anything you said. No, honestly. And you're right. Some people have already made up their minds, and you're not going to knock them off that block. Okay.
Right.
You're not going to knock them off that pedestal. You're not going to knock them off at all. And since this is a talk show, we want to talk about, we have to be well rounded and talk
Yes.
about the various things that happen here in our society that affects all of us one way or the other. And my thing is, Mike, that being in law enforcement, and I know that you were always fair. Okay, you've told me various stories, and I know you. I know you individual, and to me, nobody is above the law. And this guy shouldn't be any different. Like I said, we can't change the mind of these freaks out here that are just steadfast, will not even look at any opinion. Now, you guys remember, I said this and I say it over and over again on various subjects, not necessarily politics or anything like that. Even us among the panel, we might have a different opinion about something. And I said, feel free to state your opinion. I'm not here to dictate how the conversation goes, because we want and I was talking to Kim Rogers, a friend of mine, earlier today. And I said, I tell the panel, hey, look, state your opinion about however you feel. This is not Fox News. It's not Newsmax. It's not any of those channels that everybody goes in one direction, and it's like they have the same talking points. They have the exact same talking points. So I want our panels to make sure, hey, say what's on your mind now, and then say, hey, this is my opinion. Mm-hmm. Now, it's different if you say, this is my opinion, and I have these facts to back me up. Okay? If it's your opinion, feel free to say whatever you want to say, because I'm going to say whatever I have to say. But Mike, being a fair person, I know you. Nobody's against the law. Nobody's against the law. And like I said, let's state the facts. Biden had nothing to do with this. Had nothing to do with this at all. He couldn't have. His DOJ has no influence over that at all. And let's put it like this. The prosecution put on a much, much better case than the defense lawyers. The defense lawyers had no case. As a matter of fact, they shot themselves in the foot. They said, okay, well, you got Michael Cohen over. He's the worst liar in the world. he's the most famous liar, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But see, you have to understand this. Michael Cohen went to prison. He went to prison for the same thing that his boss is accused of. And they say, oh, well, peeing off a porn star, that's not a crime. But see, guys, do your homework. That's not what he was convicted of. He was convicted of falsifying business records, which is a crime in the state of New York. Are you supposed to say, because it's Donald Trump, oh, just leave him alone, former president of the United States, we cannot do this? If you're going to arrest that low-level accountant for whatever, for XYZ firm for that, you arrest him too, because it should not be a two-tier justice system. And that's what the Republicans are claiming right now, was a two-tier justice system. Well, yeah, because generally, you take the elite, generally gets off on things like this. Look how many things this guy has gotten off from before. So, Mike, you take your take on this entire situation.
Oh, wow. There's so much to dissect there. I would like to go back to Dr. Sims' comment where either you're part of the solution or you're part of the problem. That's the bottom line. And I would go on from there to say that there's a two-tier justice system, and I don't like any of it. And you've heard me say many times that my take on politicians is they're all liars, cheats, thieves, and whores. And I do not like either side. I'm upset that I'm put in a position where I have to choose between two evils. And William, all of you here on this panel have heard me talk about good versus evil. And with politicians in particular, I believe the vast majority of them are evil. Why don't we have a level playing field here somewhere along the way? Why do I have to deal with politicians here in California? The justice system here, well, not the justice system. Let me go to the Congress in California. Many of them on both sides of the aisle, left, right, whatever you want to pick, they're refusing to vote because they're afraid. Now, these are our lawmakers here in California. They're refusing to vote because they're afraid that somebody will use that against them. So they're just choosing not to vote. They'll stand up against something and speak out against it, but when it comes to voting for it, they abstain. You know what kind of?
Why are they there? Why are they
there? A good question. That part.
Exactly. They're supposed to be there to protect the people. In this case, the state of California. But it's ridiculous to me that you want to put yourself in that position where you're supposed to do good for the country and, or in my case, the state of California, but you don't want to vote again as a lawmaker. You don't want to vote because you're afraid it's going to be used against you. Well, if you're afraid, then get out.
Right.
Take a stand, fall off the fence on one side or the other. I just have a huge problem. I guess if you had to classify me, I vote independent. And I think of anything else, I'm probably more libertarian than I am anything else. I don't want government in my life. I want small government. I don't want large government. I don't want people telling me I can't use a plastic straw. I don't want people in, I think it was New York, Blasio, where you couldn't order a 32-ounce Coke. You could only get a 16-ounce Coke. You know, who's the government to tell me what straw I can use and what Coke, how big the Coke is? I do not want government involved in my life. Leave me alone. It infuriates me. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of your happiness, William's happiness, Dr. Demery's happiness, Dr. Sims' happiness, and my happiness. Leave me alone. I have horses outside within 40 feet of me. And a lot of people go, well, Mike, how do you do that? You shouldn't have stinky horses outside your home because they stink and they're nasty. I don't want somebody to tell me I can't have horses out here. I love my horses. I love my animals. But I don't want the government to tell me, well, you have to buy an electric vehicle because that's the way of the world. Even though the electrical vehicles are powered by electricity which is made by coal or by something else, which is not environmentally friendly. So they're trying to force me to buy an electric vehicle, even though the electricity that's used to run those vehicles isn't pollutant free. And the chemicals that go into making a battery for these electric vehicles, where they've got little kids mining lithium. Lithium's very toxic, and they have little kids digging it out with their hands. Don't tell me electric vehicles are friendly to the environment. They're not at all. So get the government out of my life. Leave people alone to be happy and healthy and pursue their own happiness. And Dr. Demery, I think hopefully you would kind of side with me on this. You don't have to, but I appreciate the conversation. But people should be allowed to run their own lives. If they're not hurting themselves and not hurting others, leave people alone.
I like that part. Dr. Demery, yeah, your take. I want to hear what you have to say. My whole thing, and I've taken a step back a little bit, and like Dr. Sims was saying, a lot of people have anxiety behind this mess that's going on, and rightfully so. Anxiety because these so-called politicians, and you take Congress for instance, these guys are making 175 grand a year. Okay, they work half the time, if that at all. They're out there busy fundraising, and they've got their own podcasts and things of this nature, and they aren't there to govern. Okay, they aren't there to govern. They're there for publicity,
To get reelected.
they're there for power, to get elected.
They're there to get reelected. That's it. That's their number one priority. Politicians, most of them, their whole focus is to get reelected. That
Right.
It's not about taking care of their constituents or anything like that. It's to get reelected.
Right.
Look at it. Pay
It's a
attention.
ton of them.
Sorry,
It's a
Dr.
ton of
Doug, I didn't mean to jump on you there.
No, it's more than we need to understand. Now, I've been studying this thing for a while, and there are some good there's some good politicians there. Okay, you might they might be few and far between.
Few and far between. Exactly.
There might be few and far between, but there are some that are there to govern. But we have to understand also, laws only get passed by the majority, whether it's Democrat or whether it's Republicans. If the Democrats are in power, okay, then they have the power to pass legislation. If same thing with the Republicans, they're in power, they have the power to pass legislation. But I'm gonna tell you something right now. This 118th Congress, Dr. Demery, is the worst ever. Worst ever. I think when half the year when they're there, they've only passed like maybe 28 bills. You know, when previously there were a couple of hundred or 100 or so bills that were passed. But let's get back to this thing about nobody being above the law, Dr. Demery. And these clowns that's out there that's upset because this man who doesn't give two hoots about them. Okay, that's what I said. You MAGA folks out there, you guys that are so loyal, you ready to slit your own wrists behind this man who really doesn't care about Democrats. He doesn't even care about Republicans. The only reason why he wants to get back in office is to save his own behind. You see, he doesn't give a hoot. All right, Dr. Demery, your take.
Well, I would say this. My sermon today, I have to preach every Sunday, was from Mark chapter 2, going into chapter 3. And Jesus was talking about the Sabbath. And to get into the Hebrew and the Greek understanding behind what the word Sabbath means is another thing. But Jesus made a statement which is relevant to what we're talking about. He said, "Is the Sabbath made for man or man for the Sabbath?" So I take that same parallel and apply it to the law. Is the law made for man or is man made for the law? Now, I'm not trying to be a paradoxical individual and get you to think, systematically. But you have to look at it this way. Our judicial system has some problems, but it's the best that we got. It's the best in the world. It's the fairest in the world. I've been to a lot of different countries. I've been to a lot of different situations where people were placed on trial. I can tell you, our judicial system is the fairest. It's the best one in the world. It may have its problems, yes. It may have its issues and this and that and the other, but it's the best one that we got, and it's the one that we work with. So I would say this: the law was made for man. Was man made for the law? Well, I'll let you guys figure that one out. Think about it for a moment. Well, it's quite evident that the law was made, for man, not man for the law, because we know that humankind, the Greek word anthropos, also means humankind, meaning for men and women, not just for men, but it translates as humankind, So the issue is this: the law as we have it today is the best that we got. And if the verdict is not to your liking, if the verdict is not to what you think it should be, well, so what? Now, I'm going to go on the limb and say this. This is going to upset some people, William and Mike and Dr. Sims, and you guys can get upset with me if you want. That's okay. I have come to believe that the people that are backing Trump with blind loyalty are not really Republicans. They're a member of a cult. And what is one of the definitions of a cult? The leader is always right. The leader is never wrong. They blindly, without malice aforethought, follow this individual, and they will follow him into the gates of hell. And I think many of the people that follow this man follow him with blind with blind process in rationalizing out the truth. One of the things that William has said before on this show, which is important, Ann has said it, Dr. Sims has said it, and I even think Mike has said it. It's about the facts. You can state your opinion. You can say, well, I believe this and I believe that. But if you don't have any facts to back it up, it's just your opinion. But when you have facts, when you have evidence, when you have science, when you have the process behind rational thinking that backs up what you're saying, then that gives you evidence, that gives you credence, and that gives you credibility. So these people that are backing Trump are in a cult. I believe they're fascists. They're worse than the Bolsheviks during the Russian Revolution. They're as bad, if not as bad, as the Nazis during World War II. They're as bad as the Luftwaffe, They're as bad as the Third Reich. And those people that followed Hitler. So that's my take on it. So I would think that, yes, we have to say that not all politicians are bad. There's some that are good. I don't think every single one of them are bad. I think some really try to do the best, just like all police officers aren't bad. I've worked with some bad ones. I've worked with
me
some
too.
bad ones. I've worked with some really good ones. I mean, I think the same thing is true with politicians. They're not all bad. There are a bunch of them that are, but they're not all bad. So I would say that we have to rely on what we have. The law was made for man, not man for the law. Just like the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So I would hope that through the midst of all of it, and it's kind of like one of my parishioners came to me today, almost with tears in his eyes. And I have great respect for this guy. And he said to me, Pastor, it just seems like the whole world is going to hell in a handbag, almost with tears in his eye. And because he was really concerned about what's going on. And I said, well, brother, it's like this. And I have said this before. Dr. Sims just brought it up a minute ago. I have said this before. We are saints in the end times. We are slowly approaching the end times. I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime. Some people will say, oh, well, you're just being apocalyptic. You're being, eschatological, all that kind of stuff. But we are in the end times. I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime. It could, because things could really escalate really quick. And I think we are as in Daniel, we are in the foot of the statue where
Yeah.
things are at the end. So we're going to have to be very clear and understand where it says brother against brother, father
Yes.
against son, son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, and vice versa. And it escalates on. So I think that we're going to have to be clearly defined between what is and what is not. I had said this a moment ago, and I'll end with this. One of the things that God gave me when I got filled with the Holy Spirit, yes, I speak in tongues. Yes,
Me
I got
too.
filled with the
Come
Holy
on.
Spirit. That is, not the most popular thing nowadays.
Yes.
But one of the
Right.
gifts that God gave me was the spirit of discernment. I can
Uh-huh.
discern and I can read people just like a book. It almost frightens me when God gives me revelation how I can read people and see where they're coming from. It almost frightens me. I mean, it
I get
really
it.
does, because God, I said, Lord, why are you giving me this? Why aren't you showing me these things? And I'm not saying that I'm a prophet. I'm not saying
It's a
but we
gift.
need to be in the spirit of prophecy. We need to be in the
Right.
spirit of prophecy. We don't have to be prophets, but we need to be in the spirit of prophecy. So I
Yeah.
think that the thing that we have to discern is between the end times that are coming. They
Mm-hmm.
are coming. They ain't far off.
Nope.
And we have to get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. And things are going, and I said I'm going to end, but I'm going to end with this. And you mark my words for it, things are going to get worse
Worse.
before they get better. And
I
when we
think you're
talk
right.
about, I know
Yeah.
I was talking about he wants smaller government and this and that and the other. And I can understand what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
But get ready, brother, because things are going to get a lot worse.
Get bad.
You and your horses and all that kind of stuff, they are going to get worse before they get
I'm
better.
not. I'm not
And there's
eating
going to
my.
come
I'm not going to eat my horses.
Oh Lord.
there's going to come a point in time where William is not even going to be able to have this show because he's going to
Exactly. That's it. That's
not
it.
be
That's
able to
really
get
scary.
on,
Yes.
voice our.
That's
But
it.
we ain't too far away from that. We are
We're
not
not.
far away from
We're
that.
not.
I actually
And you
think
know
you're
what
right.
that
And
oh,
go ahead, Doctor. Well, let me.
I
I'll
was
tell
just
you. Let
gonna
me pose a
I was
question
just
to.
go
Let
ahead.
me pose a question to both of you because I think there's zealots out there that will just push forward regardless of rational thinking and logic. I think there's zealots out there that they believe what they believe. I'm ABC and I don't care about DEF. And they're going to
Mm,
push, push, push. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I don't like what's going on either side. And again, I've made this very clear, hopefully with all of you and our audience that's listening. But Dr. Sims, if you don't have a dog in the fight, how do you see what's going on with society and where it's going to go? And unfortunately, I think Dr. Demery's right. I think there's going to be end times here where stuff's going to get really ugly, and I'm not looking forward to it. And even
mm.
though I'm an old man at this point, I got some fight left in me, but it's diminishing as the older I get. It's getting harder and harder to take well, I can take a stance, but I can't physically battle anymore. And sometimes I get frustrated. Dr. Sims, I know you do too, because I get your emails and such, but you're overwhelmed with the hatred that exists out there in society, and it bothers you. And I see it in your face. I hear it in your voice. So, Dr. Sims?
I wanted to say, and I wanted to piggyback on Dr. Demery. No, it's not going to get better. And he quoted that scripture where mothers against daughters against mothers and so on. I told my daughter, I had her laughing. I said, honey, they even had a scripture in there that I ran up on where daughter-in-laws against the mother-in-laws. I didn't know that was in there. And I told her I was going to share that with her, but we are living in a generation that is untoward generation. And I had to do research on that. Untoward. Yeah, they have some knowledge, but don't know how to apply the knowledge through wisdom standards. And so I look at that and it grieves me. And I just did something Thursday on anxiety when it comes to mental health week. And people are suffering anxiety all over the place because, as I first stated, what is going on. I'll try to make this very brief. But my heart is saddened when I see the fight against those that are in the upper echelon with power and non-consideration, as far as I'm concerned, for what I see, non-consideration to what the status of what United States is in. And that's the problem I'm having. When you have people lying on the streets, when you have veterans who were kicked out of their buildings, when you have people who are
Yes.
hungry, and when you have the greedy are getting greedy, the greedy are getting greedier to the point where I saw something even just this past month. You know, they in the stores they raise their prices because they know we're going to get our SSI checks, and it's a pattern that's going on here where they're not concerned about you as the person. One of my stands that I made when I was in corporate and they put me in the position of a corporate level. And when I was teaching them, I had to tell the leaders that, baby, the success don't flow up to you. Okay. It flows, you put me up there and those are on the bottom. You put me in the top, it's going to flow down to you. I had to reverse the pyramid and that was a God-given thing. And I knew it was. I had to, because sometimes we put ourselves up so high and think that we're doing the people a favor by walking in this position. And they forget it's the little man that makes you who you are. And I think this is what part of our government's problem is. It's the people that hired them. Okay. And it's the voice of the people they need to listen to. But our voices have been silenced for many years. People have succumbed to that tactic. So, guess what? They will hide in their confines of their homes and in their cars, and they will discuss their distressors. But it does not give a resolve to them at all because they have the give up spirit, should I say? Oh well, it's going to be what it's going to be. I have no place in this matter because we've been slowly brainwashed, folks. It is what it is. You got AI taking over. I just saw something here recently. I'm paying attention to what's going on in the signs of the time. AI going to be driving these big old trucks, delivery trucks that go from state to state. And a young lady got on there. She was very concerned. The human, as we know it, is being replaced. Guess what? The greedy are getting greedier.
That's
Because
right.
guess what? You're saving money by not hiring me. When I was working for a household finance company, and they told me for the salary that I received, and I thank God for it, and I won't disclose it, but they could hire about 250 folks. I'm like, wait a
Good
minute.
Lord.
Okay. And I said, wait a minute. So guess what they did? United States slowly started selling out us in arenas of business where people were working. And you have them where they going to India, they pay them $2.50 an hour or things like that, and do the calling and what have you. And so there's it's taken away from us. But 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 the bottom line to me with this whole situation, Dr. Dimmer, I agree with you 100%. Yes, things are going to happen regardless of what we say. And I said this too. Regardless of what you say, it's going to happen. You could pass out, you could spit, you can faint, whatever you want to do. It's not going to change the plan of God. Okay. But the consolation that I have, folks, and I'm sharing this with the world, God knows the plan for my life. Okay. Plan to prosper you, not to do evil. And this is one thing that I stand on. I am getting such a resolve in my own head. And I think this, where those of us are like Dr. Demery said, his wife with mental health and what have you. Mental health is a big factor today. It is a big problem. Where
Huge.
people are committing suicide. They are killing their families, their children. Fathers are gunning down, they're literally killing their families and turning the guns on them because of the uncertainties of what they have to face later on. They see what's going on now. And see, this is really bothering me. And then a lot of times, folks, I'm going here. The church has gotten away from our purpose, a lot of our purposes, because we're the place of hope. We're the place of restoration. But when you have twist that thing around where it benefits you, and the doctrine becomes about you and not Jesus and what he could do for you, I have an issue with that. People come for a resolve and they don't find the resolve. And Dr. Demery, I'm not saying in all places, because we do have some who are concerned about the souls of men. You've got the greedy have getting greedier, even in that echelon, to the point where the more heinies I can put in the seat, it's the more dollars I can put in my pocket. And so guess what? We got all of this stuff that people have to face, the anxiety, the not having enough, made not to feel to have enough, and then made to feel that you don't have a voice. That's a problem. When I see starving children, walking in the streets of LA, and there's all kind of brutal rapes and things like that going, they have no place to lay their head but on a cot made on the ground. They have to suffer the weather in the storms and things like that. That bothers me. And I believe if we get our eyes off of man, the word of God says, don't put your confidence in flesh. I believe if we get our eyes off Trump, we get our eyes off of Biden and all of them other there, and ask God something. Do you know there can be a change? Because they are going to have to listen to our voices. Because guess what? Their conscience, to me, as far as I'm concerned, in the upper echelon, has been seared because they have a goal in mind, and that is to constantly get rich. And William, you said something. They are trying to get rehired. They're trying to get back in to those positions in the White House because that's good money. That's good money. They're not thinking about what's going to be for the good of the people. That's good money. That's going to keep me living lavish the way I'm living, the way I'm eating.
Money, power, fame.
Yeah, and so they'll tell you
that's what drives mankind. Money, power, fame.
Yes, yeah, and then they'll tell you. Now they're telling you don't have grow produce in your backyard. Now they're coming in people's home where they're paying for their homes and says you cannot have a garden. And I heard you say something, Mike, about your horses. It's going to get to the point where I'm not going to be able to talk about the Lord. I'm not going to be able to talk about how good he is. I'm not going to be able to talk about giving somebody some hope to rest in areas. I'm not going to be able to, because they're going to take it away from me, because guess what? It's heading what Revelation is, one world government. And if people don't say it, it is what it is, because that's what it's heading to. They're going to want to dictate to you how you believe. They want to dictate to you how you feel. So you talking about a cult. We talking about a whole United States occultism. Okay.
Power and control.
Yes, power and control. And that's where it's headed. And folks, if we would wake up, we see it every day. We see it every day. It's happening. And sometimes the process to me is speeding up. Okay. I don't know how you all feel, but it's like this thing is just speeding up. Oh my goodness. From one day to the next, I'm like, wow. And so the consolation I have, and Dr. Demery, I'm with you. I speak in tongues too. I love having the Holy Spirit down on the inside, because that Holy Spirit leads and guides me and gives me comfort. Okay. In the time like this. And a lot of people don't want to hear this kind of talk, but it's real, folks, because you're going to have to find comfort in something. Okay. It is what it is, because what is going on now, most of these folks don't care about who your name is, your mama, your lineage, none of that. And so I think that we need to unify, actually, because unification gives us strength and power. A house divided is going to fall. That's my take.
I couldn't agree more, because I tell you what, there's something that's been going on for years. Dr. Sims, you mentioned something about, and you alluded to the fact that, remember, years ago, they started shipping jobs overseas because these greedy CEOs, to make more money, rather than pay a fair wage here, they ship them to India and these other places there where a minimum wage, $2, $3, $5, whatever it is, and a lot of them have sweatshops over there where a lot of things that we are wearing are made there
Exactly.
What,
and
five
children,
dollars a piece?
and
Uh,
Yes.
children.
yeah, they.
Yes. Children.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. There's no question about it. But see, let's get back to why these things are happening. Because, like Mike, you said, there's good and evil would rather have our children starving, or they
Yes.
don't care about whether our children starve or not, as long as they're lining their pockets. Because there's no child in America that should go hungry. There should be no
Not
homeless
here.
veterans.
Not here.
There are no homeless veterans. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. Okay. That matter of fact, this country is so rich, no one should be homeless. But now, if you look at the housing market, it is through the roof. It is through the roof. Whether you're buying or whether you're renting or whatever it is absolutely through the roof. And now you have to understand. I remember going to school, and when I was in grade school, my teacher, and we're going back several years, and the teacher says, "Look, you better get an education because otherwise, now these manual jobs you have now, they are no longer years to come. They are not going to exist anymore." Mike, you made a point several months ago, and we were talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and we were talking about. You said, "Yep, it's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to create a lot of jobs. However, if you don't have the skills to get those jobs, what good is it?" Folks,
Exactly.
this is the power brokers, the powers to be out here. They don't give a damn about anybody out here as long as they are lining their pockets. What Dr. Sims said also, if you look at these corporations, the focus is on the top. The focus that VP, that CEO, that general manager, whatever it is, and they're getting the bulk of the salaries. Yet they're not doing the work. There's not a CEO in this country that does any amount of work that amounts to what? They're up there collecting the checks. Then they have their lower level management that's supervising things. And then you have the people who actually do the work. I believe in the bottom up approach instead of the top down, trickle down. Remember, they said, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to give these airlines all of this money. We're going to give these corporations all of this money because we believe that it's going to trickle down. It didn't trickle anywhere. It trickled into their bank account.
Let me jump in here, William. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Here's my fundamental or my simplistic view of things. You have a cart, and the cart's being drawn by mules, horses, whatever you want to pick. You pick one. I don't care. But when you have the elite driving the cart, steering the cart, and you have all the mules or the horses or whatever you want out there pulling the cart. So those are the laborers. Those are the workers. So what happens when everyone out there becomes part of the elite where they're steering or driving the cart? What happens when all the mules aren't there anymore? What happens when the horses aren't there anymore to pull the cart? When the workers aren't there anymore? So when the workers aren't there to do the labor, and what happens is you got this cart where it's all top heavy, where you have all these people that want to steer the cart because they're the elite, right? They're the elite, so they want to steer the cart. What happens when you have no more mules to do the work?
Hey, you know what? I tell you what, that's what's happening here. Because to me, you need mankind, and I don't care how advanced we get. You need mankind to be able to run the society properly. And if we productive, if we depend on artificial intelligence, now artificial intelligence, it's a two-edged sword. Okay, there are some good things about artificial intelligence. Okay, and then you have some people, Dr. Demery, that want to use it for evil. They want to use it for evil. Look at what they're creating right now. Look at what they're creating false ads right now as we speak that are driven by AI.
Yep.
And it can end up destroying someone's life. We talked about this on this show, that they can take a little sampling of your voice, Dr. Sims,
Yes.
Take a little sample of your voice and make it sound just
Replicate it.
like you, and put your picture up
Exactly.
there, and the uninformed person would say, "Oh, Dr. Sim said that. Oh,
Must be
wow.
true.
I thought
Must
she
be
was,
true,
yeah,
right?
it must be true.
Oh,
If it's in the newspaper, there's a premise,
Must be
Dr.
true.
Demery. There's a premise out here that, oh, if you see it on TV or you see it
it's
in read it in the
yeah, that
newspaper,
part.
it's true. It's true. And many of these things are far from the truth. And
Well, William, they don't even have to. They can get a still picture of you now. I saw it
of
on
course,
YouTube where it's an AI thing where the child is singing, moving its head like it's really doing what they say it's doing, but it's AI have taken over, and that's what's so alarming because they could put you in criminal activity. Okay,
they could.
there's something I just heard about Mississippi and some of these southern states, and we were talking about voting, William, and someone see this is what's getting to me too. A part of it, many things are just kind of got my mind going, but where they are pulling people over innocently, and you all, Dr. Dimry and Mike said there's some awful police officer out there, and there are, and to the point where the going thing
Unfortunately.
now if they become a felon, I believe, if they throw them in jail for nothing, actually, they're causing the
Mhm.
havoc, then guess what? It prevents them from voting. Now, this is what the narrator says. And they were saying in those cities, the highest crime is from those that were just stopped innocently, like from a busted taillight or something. But it was escalated by a police officer who had anger issues, okay, and who caused the ruckus, and therefore
True.
the innocence of an individual. Yeah, you just give him a Mr. Fix It ticket. That's what I was, told to
Mhm.
do. But give him a Mr. Fix It ticket. But these police officers were opening the door, yanking them out of the cars. A teenage girl from high school just graduated, threw her down on the ground for no reason. All sorts of things is going on now, and that's a spirit of intimidation, and that is
Power
being
and
done on
control.
purpose. It's
Mhm.
done on purpose. And so, guess what? You throw enough of us in jail, guess what? That decreases the level of voting rights. And that's not right. So, I always say there's always a hidden agenda. There is a hidden agenda in a lot of this stuff that's going on. Again, it's not all police. Yeah, these police have guess what? They've gotten fired or relieved of duty. But guess what? But what they didn't do was take that crime off of the children or the young adults' records. That's
Mhm.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, it's done by design, and I tell you something, Dr. Dimmer, I want you to take on this for what I'm about to say here. I think Dr. Sims, she brought up something about there's a mental health crisis here in America right now.
Yeah.
There is definitely a mental health crisis, and I believe that a lot of this is caused by politics and
Mhm.
religion. You got the shady pastors that get up there each and every Sunday and they preach this and this prosperity gospel. I've said this over and over and over again, especially these evangelicals out
Mhm.
here say, "Yep, there is a $100 line right here. There's a $500 line right here. There's a $1,000 line right here." And whatever. Okay. And they've got these people just like the Pied Piper and the Rats run up into getting into these lines right here and giving away their money when the light bill is due. Their light bill is due. Now, you think about this. You're in church and you believe in this charlatan, and you're going to give your last dime in the hopes that it's going to come back to you 100-fold. Well, you might as well go to Vegas. You might as well go to Vegas because you're going to lose it there too. All right. And then, so what happens? Your hopes are all up. Yep, I've contributed this. God is going to bless me because, look, I understand that the church has operating expenses. And they say, well, this is going to God. God doesn't have a bank account. He does not have a bank
Or
account.
God doesn't drive a Mercedes either, does he?
No, or a Bentley.
Or a
Okay.
Bentley.
Dr. Demery, your take on this. I think a lot of our mental health problems out here in this country has to do with religion and politics. What's your take? Your your mic is
You're
muted.
muted.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, my mic was muted.
that's
I
okay.
agree with you 100%, and I think part of the problem is that you have a lot of these charlatan pastors, like you said, William, and people are believing them. I always tell my people every Sunday, go research it for yourself. Just don't listen
Hmm.
to what I said. I
Mhm.
am not right all the time. Sometimes I make mistakes. I'm fallible. I'm not infallible. And I said, this is not, a pariah of truth that comes out of my mouth. I try to give you the best that I can every Sunday to give you a suitable verbal offering, but it's not perfect. It's not precise. So you
Mhm.
have to go do some of the research for yourself. And in Malachi, it says very clearly, the Lord says, try me, know me, test me to see what I'm telling you, whether it's truth or not. It says it
Right.
in Malachi. So I think, William, the thing is that people are going to have to get beyond the point of just being like lemmings, instead of just running off the edge of the cliff and dying on the bottom on the rocks bottom below. They have to start reading for themselves. They
Mhm.
have to start researching things. But that's the sad part. Did you know? Do you know? Most of you know this. Some of you don't, and the listeners probably know this. The average reading level of an American in this country is seventh grade and below.
Wow,
Can you imagine
that's sad.
that?
Believe it.
We
I
we
believe it.
are a first
I would
world
think it's
country.
less. I would think
We
it's
are
like
an
fifth grade.
established society, and the average reading level is below high school level reading. So people are followers. People are
Mhm.
so easily swayed by what someone says. I mean,
Mhm.
as much as I liked Obama, I would go research some of the things he talked about. I just didn't
Okay.
blindly follow him, you know? So I think that's part of the problem
Mhm.
that, like you said, William, the preachers in the pulpit are part of the problems. I can say this because I'm hard on ministers. You know that, William. I'm hard
I
on
know
them
you.
because I jump on them, and I know this is a little arrogant. My wife gets on me about being arrogant, that if you aren't seminary trained, if you don't
Come
have,
on.
I mean, your doctor has to go get a degree.
True
Your
there.
lawyer has to pass a bar. William, you had to pass to get your license to be a broker. I mean, why
Yep.
can't preachers fall under some level of criteria where they have to be scrutinized? No, they just jump up, under a shade tree and get a big old black Bible and drive a long black sedan and say, "Well, I'm Reverend, I'm Doctor So and So,
Ooh,
I'm Doctor this, Everybody wants to be Reverend Doctor So and So,
that
you
part.
know,
Come on.
and because that to them brings status, that brings integrity, but it does not. The
Mm-mm.
integrity is when the people are speaking the facts, being able to rightly discern biblical principles and rightly discern being able to do what Jesus said. What is the greatest commandment? And that is to
Mm.
love thy neighbor as
Yep.
thyself. And we are not
Yep.
doing that. And we're going to be judged for it because we're not loving our neighbor as ourselves. We're not kind to people. We're not extending the right hand of fellowship to people. One of the things you can say about me, you can talk about me, you can say whatever you want to say about me. I'm this, I'm that. But one of the things people will always tell you about me is I try to be fair. I'm not always right all the time, but I try to be right in my thinking. I try to rightly discern what the truth is and what the truth is not. And I try to project that in pastors that are not humble. I mean,
Mm.
I told one of my parishioners once, she said, "Well, if you was passing a big old mega church, you'd have a Rolls Royce." I said, "I would not."
Come
I said,
on.
"I would own a $350,000 car." or a $4,000 car. No way. I bought my wife a Mercedes. My wife was humble enough. She took the thing back, and she drives a Ford Escape now.
I
No
got you.
kidding.
Riding around
No
in no Mercedes.
kidding.
The
Yeah.
maintenance darn thing was too high. When you spend what, $400 for one tire? She said, no way, I ain't doing that. She said, I ain't doing that. And so we try to live ourselves in a
Yeah.
humble manner where that one day, woo,
Exactly.
one
Yes.
day, God
Yes.
is going to call us home and he's going to
Yes.
say, why should I let you in my heaven? What have
My
you done?
God.
Do you think I'm going to be able to say, well, Lord, I baptize babies.
Come on.
I married some people. You know, I preached the word. I did this, I did that. Look at the size of my church. Do you think that's going to get me in?
Nope.
Heck no. The only
Nope.
thing that's going to
So
get us in is say, Lord, I was a sinner. I did wrong.
Yes. And your life.
I
Your life.
wasn't. I made
Oh my God.
mistakes. We say, Lord, I tried to do the best I could. I made mistakes. I
My
tripped
God.
up. I stumbled. I fell. I may have even cursed every now and then. My wife gets on me about cursing sometimes
Oh
because I get
Lord.
mad
Help
and
us,
angry.
Jesus.
But
Oh
I may
Lord.
have done some things that I should not have done. But to the best of
we
my
all have.
knowledge, I try to do the best I can. And when politicians, when preachers, when people start doing that, then we're going to have a better society. But it ain't going to get no better.
That's
I'm not worried
it.
about that.
That's it.
It ain't
Yes. Yes.
going
So
to
Yes. Yes.
get
Yes.
no
Yes.
so
better.
Yes.
It's
William,
going to get worse.
Yes.
so
Yes. Yes. Yes.
William, if I could jump in here real quick because I
Go
don't
on.
I don't want to lose my train of thought here. I think a huge problem that we have is lack of being raised correctly. And I'm going to use all of us here on this panel because William, you raise children. Dr. Demery, you have two. Dr. Sims, you have two. Law
Three.
enforcement, military, and all that. And I raised one son. And you know what? All of our children, all of our offspring, I believe all of you, and I'd like to think that I have too, raised our children correctly to good versus evil and doing the right thing. And you know what? Everyone on this panel, from what I know of all of you, William, how's your offspring? Dr. Demery, how's your offspring? Dr. Sims, how's your offspring? Are they
They're decent people.
are they out there productive in society? And I
Very
think
much
that's
so.
the problem is we have a lack of parents teaching their children to be responsible and raising them correctly. Now, you correctly could be a wide scope term, but I mean, you teach your kids about good versus evil, and you teach them about being productive, and you're probably going to do a pretty decent job of putting your kids in a position, your children in a position where they too will emulate and absorb from us as sponges. They will do the correct thing when it's necessary. And I'm very and look at Anne. Oh my God! Look what she's done with her two boys, AJ and
Yes.
AJ and what's
Alex.
AJ and Alex. Yeah.
Thank everyone that's on this panel has raised children to be productive members of society and do the right thing, regardless of whether it was comfortable or not. They still did the right thing,
Right.
and that's my input for today. Is that if you raise children correctly, they'll go forth and prosper. So,
I agree.
William,
I
William,
agree.
I'll go back to it.
Proverbs says, raise a child upright in the way that they should go, and they will never depart from it.
Fear
Isn't
and
that right?
admonition of the Lord.
Isn't that right?
Exactly.
Yep,
Thank
yep.
you.
And I think
Exactly.
I've only met Dr. Sims' daughter online rather. I mean, through I
Yeah,
think
but we
Yeah.
know what her son has done.
yes,
Oh, actually, both. And you know what? And I thank you for that. Sometimes people think that we're bragging. I was thinking earlier, William. I'm glad I was born in the era that I was born in, because if I had children today, oh my gosh, these kids come out telling you what to do. But anyway, I'm glad the level of respect. And I'm not saying, and we can all attest that we were all perfect. We learned through trial and error, of course.
Of course.
But yes, I have children in the military, My son's a captain. I have one, and it's going on even with my brother's children. I just had a great niece who graduated from high school. She's got a full scholarship to Cal Baptist because of her academics. And I've got, I think the best teaching, I heard the politician says, the best way to school your children these days is at home because of the mess that's in the streets. I've got grandbabies and great grandbabies who are being schooled. You can see the difference in them. I'm not putting them on a pedestal, but you can certainly see the difference. And then too, teaching them the level of respect. Respect begets respect. You can't demand it, but you can issue out because you treat others like you want to be treated. Yes, indeed. And so my thing is, I thank God, and that's my sister, that's my girl, and looking at her and her two boys. But the problem we're having though is single parents, Mike. These in this society, we have mothers who are trying to raise their children. You have mothers who are trying to be
We've
their
lost the
friend.
balance.
Yes,
You have
but
a
you know
balance
what?
when you have two
But
parents.
you know where that came from. Where that came from? Satan hates families. Okay, let's put it where the separation of families. Men are not
Divide and
like they
conquer.
used to be back in the day. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest with this. The responsibility level that they should have, they don't have it. Okay, you have men are trying to do everything else but be the daddy of the child that they brought into the world. Okay, the mothers are trying to bear the brunt, and then you have mothers trying to be like the daughters and going out partying and stuff. It's just a whole gamut of things, and that's another show. But my
Wow.
thing is this: is that we've got to give respect to where respect is due. I honor my children, even though they're grown. I still inject positive affirmations in them.
Of
Okay,
course.
because they're sufferings too, even in their adulthood. But I think that's where all of us should be doing for each other, letting them know, you know what, in despite of what's going on right now, you've come this far. Don't give up.
That's
We've
right.
got people who are giving up out there. Kids are giving up, children, and the bullies, that demon right there. Okay, that's another lesson too. But
That's
anyway,
another whole nother story.
that's
Whole
a
nother
whole
show.
nother story. But we got bullies in the church, we got bullies in our homes, we got bullies in our job sites, we got a whole gamut of things that these kids are facing today. So guess what? The only thing I know to do is I do mentorship. In case anybody listening, I do mentorship. My wheelhouse is adolescents, as far as those who understand. But mentorship, somebody has got to take the helm. We can't all be so busy that we can't mentor them and give them good sound counsel. Not
Absolutely.
counsel, wanting to fight. But anyway,
No,
that's
no,
it.
no, no.
But
Hold
thank
on,
you.
Doctor.
Thank
Hold
you.
on, Dr. Sims.
Yeah.
Hold on. How do they get in contact with you?
Oh, you can get in contact with me through my office number is 951-228-9980. I mean, I've got a list of
Say it again.
counselors
Say it
that I'm
again
doing
slowly.
mentoring now. I'm sorry.
Say it again slowly.
951, thank you, Mike. 951 228-9980. And
Yes.
I
There
will
you
be
go.
soon resurrecting my counseling agency. And I'm grafting in some folks who have a heart, not just for money, have a heart for the betterment of the individual. There is a difference of the individual who is struggling. And so I add adolescents, young adults. I've even, and listen here, as old as I am, and the Lord has given me this gift, and I thank Him for it. Even senior citizens, we all need some help. All of us need help. And so with the sun, stop you, Mike, you need some help. Anyway,
Yeah, Mike needs a
Wait,
lot
now,
of.
wait, hold on.
I'm
Before you come
messing with
before you
you.
come to me,
I'm
before you come to
messing
me,
with
little
you.
Miss, before you come to me, Miss Redhead, you need to go to William way before you come to me.
No. You
Oh
no,
no.
you no. She addressed you.
At least
So
I
don't
take
try to
my
put
act
it off
right
on me,
pills.
Michael.
William won't
It's
even take
only
his
because
act
you
right
had this
pills.
big old painted
we
smile
go-
on your face, Mike.
Mike and I, we're going to take
Oh,
this up
please.
on Thursday. Hey, make sure you check out the Mad
Oh
Mike and
my
Wild Bill Coast to Coast
God.
show Thursday, 5:15 p.m. on the
Can't
West
believe
Coast,
he did that to me,
8:15.
Cece.
Oh,
I'm
yes, she did. Threw you
sorry.
all the way. No, she didn't throw you on the bus. She pushed you off the train.
That's
Oh
not
no,
right.
and she
Stop
backed
it.
up over me too.
Stop it. All of y'all stop it.
Hey,
Will you
we're out of
stop?
time. We're out of time. But we've got to continue this conversation because I think that's where it starts right there with our children. You said, oh man, there's some bad children out here. No, there's some bad parents out here that don't know how to parent.
Yes.
And
Parenting.
nurturing has been
It's
thrown
parenting.
out of the window. They don't know how to
Yes.
nurture anymore.
Yes.
I know Dr.
Yes.
Demery, he talked to his and started talking to his little girl when she was a
Very
baby.
young.
I started talking.
How are his offspring?
Great.
Dr. Demery,
Yeah.
how are your children? They squared away?
She's had her pitfalls in life, but overall, she's a contributing
Exactly.
to society.
Mhm. And my son and my daughter, my son is a gentleman, and my daughter is a lady, and they're
That part.
extremely bright. And
That
I
part.
started talking to them before they could talk. You
Good
know,
parenting.
talking to them.
And
Talk-
you think
Good
I'm bougie?
parenting.
You should see all my granddaughters. They worse than me. But
oh
with,
no,
but
no!
with taste.
Oh Lord,
With
Jesus!
taste.
Oh,
Very classy. Very. They don't go out with everything showing. Their makeup is very little.
They're
Very
ladies.
they're
They're
ladies.
ladies.
Wow, we've got to take this up next week. I think we might even start off with this because this is where the world is only going to get better. Now, I'm sort of the what do you call it, eternal optimist. I believe there are more great people out here than there are evil, or more good people than evil people. I really still
Hope so.
believe that. I really believe that. I refuse to give up. Wow, this has been a riveting conversation. We're going to have to pick this up next Sunday, and I think we need to start with our children and talk about that because
good.
this is our future. This is our future, and we want a brighter future. Then we need to brighten up our future by enlightening and loving and nurturing our children. Hey, Dr. Sims, Mad Mike, Dr. Demery, thank you guys so much, and make sure you stay tuned to let's see what's coming up Sunday Night Gold tonight with yours